Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Playoff time, baby. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Welcome in to the Dynasty Market Watch. I'm Todd Halpern, by Brian O'Leary and Matt Davis. Some of y'all just had your trade deadlines pass, so if you're wondering what the hell are these guys going to talk about, well, let me tell you, market values are still changing. We're also going to hit on some concepts today. I might sing for you again. Who knows? Let's have some fun. Do me a favor really quick. Go to Spotify or Apple and give us a rating. I'm not going to ask for a 5-star because maybe you don't think we deserve that, but we've got like 6 on Apple right now, and I think my wife and my brothers make up maybe 50% of that. So hit us with the rating on there. But let's get going today. We've got Bull or Bear here in a minute. Me and Brian are both doing some concepts type of things. We're going to be talking about rookies. We'll get into our vets. We've got a few trades to talk about that we made leading up to week 14. And then we will hit our buys or sells of the week. But Brian, lead us off. Bull or Bear? What's the concept you're talking about this week?
Yeah, so Todd hit it on the head there. I'm talking concept again. Shocking, I know. So my bull of the week is, given this time of year, a couple different things that I think leagues should enact in all leagues. Right. So the first one I think that all leagues should operate under in Dynasty is not having a trade deadline. This is something that you're already protecting against collusion. That's the only real argument. And if someone wants to do an arms race in week 10 or week 14, I don't really see a big difference. So that's one thing. And another is median scoring. Eliminate that puck luck to a certain degree. We all know injuries and crazy weeks, good and bad, happen, but that median really helps to get you back into like if I'm the second highest scoring team in the week, but I lose to the first highest scoring, I at least get a win. So it's 1-1 versus 0-1. My third of four things is as your final playoff team having a wild card. So that's in terms of highest scoring team. So top 5 seeds record wise, and then that sixth team, have them be whoever the sixth, highest scorer of the non-top 5 seeds are. So that is another way to kind of eliminate some puck luck, in my opinion. And the last thing that I want to talk about is, again, because we're talking about puck luck and crazy things that can happen, enacting some type of payout for either regular season and or regular season high scorer for the season. So get some type of payout for, if I go undefeated 14-0, or, Matt is the highest scoring team by 200 points, and then he gets bumped because of an injury or a crazy thing that happens in the playoffs, and he gets nothing out of it. To me, like we should be rewarding and legitimizing the regular season as well.
So I want to quickly talk trade deadline, and I don't want to debate like whether there should be trade deadlines or not. I feel like that's like debating politics essentially. Like everyone's got their side, they stand with them. You're not changing anybody's mind at the dinner table. So just like you've made your own decision based on your own experiences. So like whatever your trade deadline take is, cool, roll with that. But I just want to talk about when you do have a trade deadline, when you get past that trade deadline, it is like just a relief of like, whew, like I've been working so hard on working the phones. Also, you don't have the concern of like, all right, do I need to keep making my team better? Like you've got your team, you're rolling in the playoffs, you're ready to rock. So like when I think about the trade deadline, getting past it, I think about the meme of like the Popeyes lady outside, like I guess in the back, and she's like hunched over. That's what I feel like the moment that I get past the trade deadline, and I'm not like out shopping K. Dotson and Rashid Shaheed, like trying to shed their points nonstop. So my contender teams, I need to know these are the boys I'm rocking with. No more jockeying. We're ready to rock, and I'm the Popeyes lady out back.
Yeah, I don't really have much. It's funny what you said about that. I agree with. It is a very polarizing topic on whether you should have trade deadlines, and like I just simply have no opinion. I don't really care if there's a trade deadline. Cool. If there's not, there's not. The one thing that bothers me, especially now that I'm in like 20 leagues, is I really wish there was a lot more uniformity. Like I know a lot of people like to create new leagues with different kind of quirks and all that for like get something new in there. This time of year, it really does make it kind of a little stressful because it's like, man, if you're in a bunch of leagues, you probably have those couple leagues where someone either didn't get a draft pick they thought they did, or to Brian's point about the wild card, they thought they were the 6th seed, but they're not, or vice versa. And then they're raising a big stink in the chat. And it's like, man, it's Tuesday morning. I'm trying to work. And yeah, I just wish there was a lot more uniformity, and whatever the rules are, we all follow them.
We as a community love putting a little extra onus and stress on each league's commissioners, right? So like that's kind
Definitely.
of like, you deal with it kind of thing. Like I'm just having a good time. You deal with the 45 different moving parts, right? So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. I love the thing that you said about like the most points you pay out. I think that's a big one to me. One thing, having that 6th final spot saved for the guy that gets screwed, that's another big one. I used to, the leagues that I commission, I used to have it as the 6th is saved for that. Now I have it to only qualify is to be a top 4 scoring team. So it's like truly someone that got screwed. I think we got into a position in some leagues where there was less competition at the end of the season because it was all about just like most points, and it kind of came a little bit less about head to head. So like truly that last one is saved for somebody that got screwed that was a top 4 scoring team. But yeah, I mean, I think those are some good ideas that you had. It's just like basics to Dynasty and being in a league. And then max points for, I wouldn't even join a league if draft order wasn't with max points for. Like I'm not joining these leagues where it's you can just bench guys to decide the draft order.
No way. Yeah, totally agree there. Matt,
All
why
right,
don't you shift us to an actual player versus a concept here? Keep it a little more literal.
Yeah, Todd, you're gonna have a concept too. Brian had a nice concept. I'm just a simple guy. I'm just gonna pick a player that I thought has been awesome all year, Deebo Samuel. He's a guy that I've been high on for the last couple of years. I just really think he's awesome in real life, and I haven't seen a lot of trades involving him. I haven't seen a lot of talk involving him all year. And I feel like people kind of think 2021 is this outlier year for him due to rushing, and that ever before and after that 2021 season, he's just a pretty good wide receiver too. That's how people think of him. And this year he had 2 games where he combined for 1 target. He was hurt in both games. And both games he had 0.6 points, 1.1 points. If you remove those 2 games where he scored less than a point, he's averaging 20.7 points per game this year in his 9 healthy games. And so I think that's just who he is right now. I think you can depend on him for about 18 to 20 points per game production. And I don't think he's viewed that way. I think he's viewed as a wide receiver, like I said, a wide receiver too, with some volatility. And I think he's been a lot more consistent than people think. I think going forward the next couple of years, you can expect this type of production when he's healthy. And you just got to ride out because he's probably going to miss a few games every year because of his play style and all that. And I think he's going to be pretty available at a reasonable cost this offseason. And it's someone I'd look to buy.
So quick and obvious question that I think probably a lot of people are thinking, Brandon Aiyuk or Deebo Samuel?
I mean, I would take Brandon Aiyuk because of not only the current market value, but I think the market value is tied to his age. But you give me like Deebo in like an early to mid second, and I'll trade you Aiyuk. And I think that's a deal that you can probably do. So I think there's a lot of wide receivers that are valued higher than him on keep trade cut. Like DK Metcalf is valued like 5 or 6 spots higher than him. I would rather have Deebo straight up than him. Devontae Smith is valued quite a bit higher than him. I don't really view them that differently. I would expect Deebo to continue outscoring Devontae Smith for the next year or two. So I just think there's some other wide receivers that are priced inefficiently that you can pivot to Deebo pretty easily. So that's my only case on him. I think he's more of an elite guy than people give him credit for.
Some of the injured guys, let's say that you've got Tank Dell, Nico, you're in the playoffs. What about them versus Deebo?
I haven't heard how long Nico is out, but I'm fine trading Nico Collins for Deebo Samuel. Again, the next couple of years, I would expect him to produce similarly.
So Deebo on Fantasy Calc's up to wide receiver 16, which was a little bit surprising for me. But he's
killing.
See that? He said he's scoring like 20 points per game. So I mean, if you're in the playoffs right now, it makes sense.
He's been a monster the last couple of weeks. I think that's a huge factor in like the fantasy calc for sure.
And like Matt said, he had a couple games where his points per game, maybe like midway through the season, looked a little funky because left early, got hurt, had like scored like 1 point. And so it does come across as a little funky, but now that he keeps posting these 30-point games, it's flattening out to where it should be in that 20 range.
Like I said, it's kind of funny. I think he's viewed as like a boring dynasty asset, and he's simply one of the 5 or 6 most exciting players in the NFL, offensively at least.
I think it's because it feels so he might be a guy like to look to buy in the offseason that his value dips back down around rookie time, and people, they're willing to shed him to try to, get those young guys. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into my Buller Bear. One thing I like about the Buller Bear is that it's my chance for one time a week to stick a mic in my face and just talk about whatever I want to talk about. And today I want to manifest something. I want us to manifest together. So take a deep breath with me. We're going to talk about Travis Kelce, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, and the core 4 receivers, Kupp, Adams, Tyreek, and Diggs. This ode is to those guys. So these boys have been in the trenches with us for years. People talk about a 3-year window. These guys have given us every bit of that and then some. They've been dragging our dynasty teams in bye weeks and dynasty championships. We owe a lot of success to them, but we've got some battle wounds. We've been through some heart, but even stacked years of dominance, like in the back of our mind, we've really known that the clock has been ticking and we're getting closer to the end. So there's been a lot of rumblings, complaints about people like complaining about some of these guys, and it's time to manifest those for these final 3 weeks. So it's time to have some trust in these guys for one final ride. So like my guy Wiz Khalifa said, damn, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through, that I'd be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know he loved to let you rode and laugh. But something told me that it wouldn't last. Had to switch it up, look at things different, see the bigger picture. Those were the days hard work forever pays. So to our old boys, we salute you. It's time for one final ride. One last dance. Take us to the promised land.
So this guy is giving us country music, and now he's reciting rap lyrics.
Yeah, I
all for the old guys.
Just had to recite it from Wiz Khalifa.
Okay,
perfect.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to give anything other than like a slow clap for those guys, because it's like we've all probably won money in leagues because of them. So it's shout out to them. I appreciate them.
They deserve our respect. They've been getting some heat on Twitter, probably some ill will towards them when you have them on your team this year, besides Tyreek, but they deserve our respect.
No doubt. Derrick Henry, especially, man. That guy, not only has he been disrespected,
it's his time of year. So his time of year, December, that's when he rolls. So be ready. Don't have him sitting on your bench for Jerome Ford is all I'm saying.
That's fair.
So you're mentioning old guys. I think they deserve our respect, but they don't deserve a lot of our time at the moment. So why don't we give them a high five, slow clap, ride off into the sunset, my boys, and transition to some more fun young guys like we like talking about here. And I don't think there's a bigger rookie headline this past week than CJ Stroud with that injury. He's obviously been, a borderline probably MVP candidate to this point. So I'm sort of thinking for CJ Stroud, I think his weapons and himself might be slightly more obtainable than they were a week ago. Matt, what are you thinking here?
I never have that good of a gauge on it, but maybe. I'll say in my experience personally, I have not had a lot of success buying injured players at a discount frequently. But the one take I have on this is I do think we've talked about how bad the QB injuries have been this year, and especially with the elite quarterbacks, we all know people in leagues that have had this happen where they lose Anthony Richardson or they lose Joe Burrow, et cetera. And then they're like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to trade this guy for Justin Herbert straight up, or like I'll pay a 2 on top and get Justin Herbert. And then like the next week, Justin Herbert gets hurt. Like, I feel like that has happened so many times this year that theoretically all of these injured QBs should be a little bit more available than if they were healthy. But like, there's so many of the hurt ones that I don't know. I just haven't had a good gauge on it. What do you think, Todd?
I think the offseason Stroud's value is going to like kind of go through the roof, and we're going to hear the rumblings of like, is he in that top tier with like, what's the difference between him and Mahomes is what you're going to hear on Twitter. Allen is like scoring at such a different level, Hurts really too. But I think we're going to start hearing like what's truly the difference between Mahomes and Stroud. So like if I have like I talked about last week, Lamar, if I have like one of those guys right now and somebody's like, I need points today and I can, trade deadlines are open, then yeah, I mean, I'm trying to trade like Lamar for Stroud. That sounds really nice. Like Matt said, though, I don't think people really want to do that. Like in your,
so
2% of leagues, maybe.
I have a tangible example. It might be a total, like you're saying, 2%, but I saw not me, but one of the leagues I'm in, someone traded Lamar for Stroud plus a 25-2. I'm making that deal all day, every day.
Let's talk about something that's like more of like a strategy concept of you're in the playoffs. Let's say you have on your bench, let's say you've got like Jake Browning. Like, let's go like real dirty here. You've got Jake Browning. You are in the bye week, so you're not playing this week. Are you willing to make that move to just like help somebody out? Like you could potentially helping him out. He gets Lamar, but you're getting Stroud and the 2. That's like a backwards thinking type of move that you're gaining some value. You're getting significant value, really.
There's zero context that I wouldn't make that move. I could be a rebuild. I could be a number 1 contender. It doesn't matter. I'm making that move.
Yeah. Okay.
Like you're saying, if I have anyone that I can, if for some reason Stroud's injury lasts more than a week, then yeah, for sure. Flacco, even Jake Browning, Flacco, whoever.
Yeah, I'm surprised that somebody was willing to do that, but
yeah, and again, that might be an outlier, but that is a thing that like maybe it's worth investigating in your league. I guess that's my point bringing it up.
I mean, the perfect guy to take advantage of this injury QB apocalypse is Dak Prescott, and I have not been able to do it. Like, I actually have a lot of Dak shares, and I haven't been able to trade them for any injured Burrow or Herbert or anything like that. And I've been trying the last couple weeks, and it does seem like kind of a win-win in terms of like, all right, Dak's giving you a top 3 season.
You're talking 1-to-1.
Yeah, or I would have thrown in like a little small piece on top of Dak if needed. But like I couldn't even get people to entertain the conversation. So maybe it's just my specific league that I have my 3 Dak shares. The guys were good or not content, etc. But
very brief Dak tangent. I think just the fact that was maybe even something you considered offering, who I know is a very not charitable, but understanding and like thoughtful trade partner like you are, Matt. Just the fact that Dak is even in that conversation speaks to, I think, his value growth this year in how he's played. So just, my 2 cents on that front, if that makes sense.
No, I agree with you. It was a topic in our group chat before this season. I personally used to make fun of people that took him like at the 1-2 turn and stuff, like, or in the early second. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing drafting Dak Prescott there? And like this year, he's absolutely worth that value. And he's 30 years old, and
he was like,
where do we think Dak will go? Where do we think Dak will go in like 2024 startups?
1-2 turn.
The 1-2 turn, early to mid second, I think. Yeah, 1-2 turn.
Because he is a little bit on the older side, so that'll like hold back his value. But really, I mean, what are we talking about here? Like he's going to be around for at least like 5 more years at minimum. So
attached to CeeDee Lamb. I mean,
yeah. And you're playing on turf, like it's going to continue to be a fast-paced offense. So like, I mean, Dak's probably one in the offseason where they're not getting those fantasy points anymore. If you've got a Stroud, Matt, are you willing to maybe see if you can get Dak in a first? Like that actually could be possible in the offseason, not right now. Like we're talking about like July or August.
I think you can probably get more than Dak in a first for CJ Stroud in the offseason.
Yeah, you might be. Yeah, you might be able to.
But that's a trade that I like to do, and I kind of sometimes it backfires on me, and it's definitely risky to trade away these elite quarterbacks. But that is the type of move that theoretically could make a lot of sense if you can get Dak a first and like let's say Rashee Rice or like another young wide receiver for like one of the like for CJ Stroud, they're probably going to score similar points in the next few years. So like you probably can make up that value.
Let me tell you about somebody
lineup,
who's not going to be scoring many points, at least this year, and probably not next year either. And that's Bryce Young.
Yeah.
And that guy is in
My notes are, what the fuck is he? That's the extent of my notes. I don't know.
For a while, I was pretty convinced that it was just his surrounding cast. Like it was just like, all right, he's got a shitty O-line. His receivers, I mean, arguably the worst in the NFL. I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but Mingo, DJ Chark. I mean, he has Thielen, who is at least something, but he's falling off a little bit. Yeah. So that is brutal to be working with, but just watching him, and I'm not going to pretend to be some like film scout, but just watching him, he doesn't look like good quarterbacks. Like he just looks like what I expect these backup quarterbacks to come in looking like.
This is a low-hanging fruit, like swap these two players, but like if you switch him and Brock Purdy, is he putting up similar-ish Brock Purdy stats if he's on San Francisco?
Not a fucking chance, in my opinion.
We know how you feel, Matt. Yeah.
And Matt was earlier to the party, but Purdy probably is worth 2 firsts now.
Purdy is worth 2 firsts. I will stay on that train until that becomes consensus view. Brian will be the last person on earth we convert, but we'll convert him. But
he's got to throw past 10 yards.
No, I mean, I feel like every week every week we do some show prep. We talk, outline certain topics, and we have our rookie report section. And like every week or every other week, it's like, all right, we got to talk about Bryce Young. And it's like, does he suck? It's like, yes, he fucking sucks, man. Like and all the film people, like you said, Todd, you're not a film guy. I'm not really a film guy. All the film people come to the same conclusion. Bryce has maybe the worst receivers in the NFL, like you said. He has a bottom 5 offensive line. The coaching and the scheme is horrendous. And Bryce himself is playing like a bottom 5 quarterback. It's all a disaster. Like there's like everybody that's tried to give Bryce the benefit of the doubt and isolate his play from his surrounding factors have all come to the same conclusion that he's been fucking terrible. So
it's getting pretty dangerously close to like not being able to play the chicken or the egg game, right? Like I think that's where we're pretty close to, if not already there for you. It sounds like, Matt. Anyways.
Well, so the only thing that I'm interested in pointing out about Bryce Young going forward is that he's been so historically bad that he actually did what everybody assumed was impossible. And he sort of ruined his value insulation with how bad his rookie year is. When you start talking about Josh Rosen, that's literally one of the only guys you can't get mentioned in with a rookie year historical comp, and he got mentioned with him. So now he could be Josh Rosen. Like
so Todd, Titans fan, Levis or Young?
I mean, I would take Levis just because he at least looks the part at times. Like he has a strong arm. He makes some wow plays every now and then. Like from a fantasy perspective, he's not doing anything. I just don't think Bryce Young is going to be doing enough. Like he's going to need like a Brock Purdy situation to make him relevant. Will Levis is probably going to be no more relevant in like 18 months, but he's got some wow ability that like, there's stuff there. You can see there's some stuff.
He's like ahead, just to use like a basketball example, like Bryce Young is like a guy that's just like maybe textbook, but not good at the textbook stuff. And like Will Levis has like some Vince Carter in him where it's just like, holy shit, what the hell just happened there kind of thing, where it's like, I'm not sure if it makes him better or worse, but it's like wow factor for sure.
Yeah, like we've seen tons of Vince Carters that are that crazy like one of like top tier type of athletes that just bust out. Like they don't turn into anything. Maybe not quite to the Vince Carter level of athleticism, but like
Gerald Green. How about Gerald Green?
Like
just
guys like that,
like
blowing candles out off the rim that end up busting. And that's Will Levis is probably Gerald Green.
Like,
it's not.
Vince Carter is the Josh Allen of like that 1%er that comes through, and most of them become Gerald Green.
Right. All right. So I've forced us into a basketball conversation that I will quickly transition from here. So one thing while doing some research on the rookie wide receivers that we're going to hit on here, I was shocked to see that Jordan Addison is the wide receiver 2 rookie on Fantasy Calc. I'm taking at least Puka, Dell, Flowers, JSN above him
easily.
So that's like at best he's wide receiver 5 to me. I was surprised, and that to me says sell Jordan Addison where you can if he's being viewed as wide receiver 2.
I think he's totally misvalued. I mean, he does nothing for me. Like his analytics aren't very good. I don't think film people think he's very good. Like I don't really know who, like on Fantasy Out, he's wide receiver 17. I don't know who these people are that are into him. I don't talk to anybody that's into him. So like maybe the people that have him were just in on him and they're just kind of like unwilling to move.
Yeah,
and if they do move, they're just moving at like awesome prices. Like I guess good for them. But like Brandon Aiyuk, T. Higgins, Nico Collins, Tank Dell are all behind him. It makes 0 sense to me. Like, if you just want to have a rookie wide receiver on your team, you're just like, I have to have a rookie wide receiver. Like, you think that only 22-year-olds are worth anything? Then trade him for Rashee Rice and try to get something on top. Like, Jordan Addison to me is just a very low ceiling. I just don't see the pop there that you can get from like the Puka. Like Tank Dell is ultimately maybe a similar type of player, but like Tank Dell has Stroud, and Stroud is basically like a top 3 quarterback for a receiver. I mean, here in a couple of years, we could argue he's number 1 because I think we've talked about it, but like Mahomes dishes it around a little bit more. So like Tank Dell could be in like the best possible situation you could be in.
Yeah, right. The only thing you said that I kind of disagree with, and it's just like I would phrase it differently, is I do see some pop from Addison. I do understand kind of the appeal of him, but like he's priced, like to your point, he's priced like he's already really good, and I don't know that he's any good. His floor is pretty low. Like I think his ceiling is kind of decent, but I've been kind of frustrated because like all 3 of us have agreed that Addison has been a sell for a month now. My only share is in that 3-peat league that we're both in, and you 2 are the only guys I haven't offered him to, just because we all agree on him. So he's been someone I've been trying to sell, and I guess I'm just kind of stuck holding him. And it's like, every market is its own micro market, and I just can't find a way to sell them. So I'm stuck holding him. I agree. He's a major sell right now at that price.
Transitioning, we're talking lock steps or lock takes, right? So like Matt, tell me Puka is your wide receiver 1 here at this point, please. Is he getting closer?
I think Tank Dell is, but like like I said, I think I said last week, I have them essentially the same, and I think Puka is going to be easier to trade for. Now that might be flip-flopped, right? So now Tank's probably easier to trade for. I still have them worth about the same. I think those 2 are a clear tier above every other rookie in this class right now. So
last week I talked about like the wide receivers like 9 to 15. And that kind of being a tier for me. Guys like Devontae Smith and Waddle are in that tier. Puka, Tank Dell, Nico Collins in that tier. And they're still in that tier together. I would I still think that there's some value to here at the end of the season that you have to take into consideration. So like I would probably just like take Puka because of that. But as we fast forward a month from now, Puka versus Tank Dell, Puka kind of has a better view from an analytic lens. Tank has that insane situation. And it's not like Tank Dell's analytics are bad. Like his are very good as well. So I'd probably take Tank Dell over Puka. But like I said, same tier. If somebody was willing to give me a little something on top for one or the other, sure.
And just to clarify on that point, I'm already kind of with a lot of the deadline leagues that have deadlines having them passed. Personally, I'm already kind of in like off-season value mode. So like anyone I'm saying I would take this guy over that guy, I'm not factoring in if they're injured. I don't care really unless they literally just got hurt and it was an Achilles or ACL. Like if he's going to be fine in May, I do not care about the injury right now.
I think that's an important distinction to make for sure, Matt. That like when you're talking in this case, Tank Dell isn't injured because he's healthy, and the next time you're going to use him or care about him, right? So like, I think it's important to at least state that hey, it's not so much like I'm trading for Tank Dell on my best contender teams necessarily, because he's not going to provide that input or influx of points, right? So to me,
yeah, to the Tank and Puka thing, like I would prefer Tank Dell. He's my wide receiver one. I would trade Tank Dell for Puka 1-for-1 on a contender where I had no other choice, or that was my only option basically. So I don't think they're that far apart. I understand knocking guys or devaluing guys because they're injured and they can't be used in the most important part of the season, which is the next few weeks. Outside of that is kind of how I'm viewing all these players right now.
So it took us a while to get there, but you were giving me the answer that I wanted, that Puka is above Tank when you factor in Tank injured. You just stated that you're not usually factoring that in because of the deadline and next season. I guess that's my point. So like if you are factoring that in, Puka over Tank, that's what you said basically.
Yes and no. So
I'm gonna keep words in your mouth here, Matt.
So basically, I would still have Tank Dell higher. I'm fine making that swap though. Like they're very close to me. So yeah, if you want to say I have Puka higher. And that next group, I don't think there's any more clarity with Downs, Rice, Addison, Flowers, and JSN is in that group to me. Like I know you guys think I'm kind of disrespectful to JSN.
Let me hit one wide receiver flyer that I think we've talked about in the beginning of the season, or earlier in the season, I should say. I think Michael Wilson is going to be a great buy in the offseason. And here's why. Hollywood is a free agent. Maybe he resigns, maybe he doesn't. But also that Marvin Harrison Jr. buzz is going to be around, and that's going to plummet and tank Michael Wilson's value, in my opinion. And, we talked for a while. He was going for like a 2 for a while. Like, I think he's 3-4 range rookie picks in the offseason. People aren't going to care about him, especially if they're like, hey, Marvin Harrison's coming in and just alphaing the shit out of him. I think he's a great, like, really cheap guy that you can maybe gain value on pretty instantaneously.
I had the same reaction Todd did. Like, man, Michael Wilson sucks.
Like, yeah, he's just
what are you paying for though? What are you paying for?
Right? No, I agree.
Yeah, if I can get him for like a late third. Like I feel like a lot of times
it's got to be late, drafts, not even an early.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of times in rookie drafts, those early thirds have some trade value. And I just don't think I'm going to I don't ever see a point where I'm like, yes, I can use Michael Wilson in my lineup. Probably ever. And so basically what I'm hoping to do is get him and he becomes worth a second and then I can trade him. I don't think I'd want to take the risk. And I would just, he's not the type of guy that I would want on my team. I'd rather have less wide receivers overall.
I think he's going to be artificially devalued. I guess that's my point here is don't pay a second for him in the offseason. But yeah, like to Todd's point, like 3 or 4, like that's something that I think absolutely can give you a return on your investment. So that's just kind of, and a little bit more of a buzz name is Josh Downs. I think he's going to be a buy in the offseason as well. Pittman getting a lot more buzz and notoriety lately. I think he's going to be a nice buy to potentially get on your roster before next year.
Really quick, Michael Wilson. So yeah, if like you can trade a third for him, I would do that because like I said, a mid to late third, because like those thirds are like, they don't even a lot of times amount to Michael Wilson. And at least Michael Wilson is closer to potentially getting some burn. He got a little bit this year, but like potentially getting some burn. Josh Downs, he's starting to feel like Jahan Dotson 2.0 to me. Like he's got the film bros are liking him. He had some nice analytics early on. I don't know. I'm a little bit sketched out by him. I just don't think that like I said last week, I just don't think that high end range outcome that I thought was there early on is really there. So he's another one where you're like kind of buying him. You need to buy him so that he's going to points for you. He's not really a value play to me.
Fair enough. All right, so we've touched on.
I don't agree with that on Downs. I definitely think he still has major upside, and
I appreciate it,
and can be a pretty big value swing. But before we swing to vet reports, you can make it quick if you want, Brian. It's kind of annoying me a little bit how many tweets I'm seeing the last day or two trying to say QJ redeemed himself and people that were being patient with QJ, like he showed everything. And this is why you be patient with developmental. Like this is all stupid, right? Like, do you guys care at all about his 3-catch 91-yard game?
I think first of all, like I think Todd talked about like splits can tell you anything you want them to tell you. That's where I was seeing the tweets where it was like splits like last 2.5 games he has 3.7 catch, like just like bullshit stuff that like cherry picking to like make you feel better about yourself. Whether he's good or bad, I think all agree he's probably bad, like very, very likely. But like that split that you tweeted out and got 14 likes on isn't going to change whether Quentin Johnston's good or not.
Yeah, and outside of that one huge catch, which wasn't particularly that impressive, really. He had 2 catches for like 25 yards or whatever. It was, I don't know. I was just surprised at the amount of people that thought QJ's trajectory changed based on this past week, and I think we're all kind of on board that.
So Matt, someone he hates Quentin Johnston. Someone he loves Jordan Love. Here, we haven't talked about Packers in a while. I want to hit really quickly here, Matt. 500 words or less. Jordan Love or Justin Fields, Jordan Love or Purdy, Jordan Love, Watson, Jordan Love, Howell, Jordan Love, Goff. You taking any of those guys above Jordan Love?
The only one that I would consider above him right now is Brock Purdy. And I think Love is closing the gap, but I just know Brock Purdy's good, and there's no security at all. There's no concerns with him, all that stuff. I think he's the safest of that group. Yeah.
That group that I listed, Purdy, they're all relatively close in fantasy calc. Purdy is your highest, but who is the one that's closest to Jordan Love but behind him of that list? So Fields, Watson, Howell, Goff.
Fields. I don't believe in Howell. Goff to me is like a separate asset class. Like
if you're selling Jordan Love, it's Fields plus what?
See, I mean, I could answer this. Like the answer would probably be like so for me, the answer would be like a late 1, early 2. Nobody's really paying that, right? So like, it's kind of like a moot point. But like, I value Love higher than the market and Fields lower than the market. So it would have to be a crazy person's valuation that's making that trade with me.
It would have to be another Packers fan. Yeah, right.
I'm fully convinced that Fields will be somewhere next year, and I'm very convinced also that it won't be in Chicago. And I think that Fields' fantasy talent is awesome, and his point scoring is awesome. And I think that his NFL playing is just barely good enough to keep him afloat. And so I think that he's going to stick around for a good while. And so I'm pretty bullish on trying to acquire. He's my second most owned quarterback, but I'm pretty bullish on trying to add some Fields and kind of doing what we were talking about earlier with maybe like Stroud and trading back to that range and adding a bunch of stuff, like adding firsts. Like if you've got Kyler trading back to Fields, I've got several Herbert, like trading a Herbert back to Fields. I think that interests me. And that's a risk, but I think that's something that interests me to take that risk. And that's how you can to me, that's kind of how you can build juggernauts, is taking a calculated risk and getting a bunch of stuff on top.
So we're talking elite quarterbacks. or wannabe elite quarterbacks. So Todd, you had you had our biggest headliner last week for sure with the Lamar sell. Is there anything that you want to clarify and or make a little more clear after this big week? Has anything changed for you? That sort of thing.
No, I mean nothing's changed as far as where I would have him. My take, basically, to reiterate, was Lamar Jackson's points per game are not lining up for me for being in that second tier of QBs. So you've got Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. That second tier was Herbert, Burrow, Stroud, basically. And people have been like dogging Herbert this year. He's still been points per game. Like prior to this last week, he was like, I think QB 6-ish, kind of depending on your scoring, 5 or 6. Burrow had a very weird year. I don't even really know what to make of it. Stroud obviously has been awesome. So like the last year and a half, Lamar has not played to that level from a points per game standpoint in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. And so to me, I don't really change where his rank is. I think he's still like, for me, like around QB 7, but he changes from a tier standpoint, and he's now in like the Kyler Dak type of tier. And so, no, I mean, like that game doesn't really change anything for me. Same, I would still have him there. If I could trade a Lamar and go get Fields and a bunch of stuff, that's pretty interesting to me. I do think one thing to like preface with elite quarterbacks is that, to me, their values really build up in that like July, August timeframe when people are doing startups. People aren't scoring points yet, and people are trading based on startup ADP. And when he's startup 108, you can get a lot. It feels like you can get a lot more than what you can get right now. Maybe even like a month after the season's over. So if I'm trading one of these elite guys, I'd like to trade him in July, August, and trade back for like a late second round type of startup value plus, which is just feels a lot easier to do than in season when you're trading with fantasy points per game in mind.
Tangible. Yeah. I think we all three of us have talked at pretty great length off air about how startup value can win leagues. People go crazy over startup values and aren't really sure how to value things, where like what you're saying, Todd, it's very easy to say Lamar is averaging 23 points per game or whatever the case is, and tangibly place a value with that, whereas they don't know what 108 plus 306 means or whatever, like that's a huge difference.
Well, and before we get into the trades of the week, the last thing I'll say about that, to your point about Fields being a risk, and I just want to reiterate this to wrap up the discussion. A lot of that value for those elite quarterbacks is tied up in the security of knowing that the only thing that's going to go wrong is an injury. Like when these QBs fall off, like the variance is baked in the value, and when these QBs fall off a cliff prior to injury, it looks really ugly. Like Danny Dimes in that type of asset class where he put up a fringe QB one season, and before he got hurt, it was an utter disaster this year. So that's the downside risk. But trading, speaking of trades, we'll go into our trade of the week. I wasn't even really going to talk about this trade of the week, but Brian wanted it included to get some things off his chest. So I'm going to get yelled at a little bit. We are going to start off our trades of the week segment with a very exciting trade. I traded Alexander Madison away on the contender for Ezekiel Elliott, 1-for-1. And the premise there being that with Ramondre out, it's going to be super ugly, but Zeke is just going to get fed the ugliest PPR points in history and be a low-end QB1 the rest of the year because of that. But floor is yours, Brian.
Yeah. So basically any league that I've commissioned in the offseason, I pushed for Zeke to be excluded from drafting. And every league I failed miserably in doing so. Everyone was like, oh, well, I got to take him in the 20th round. I was like, hey, listen, we had an agreement. You signed up for this. This is a Zeke-free league. And the reason I say that is Zeke is mayonnaise that's been left out a little too long. He
He's
was
so bad.
once a great condiment. Like, people enjoy it on sandwiches and all that and burgers, blah, blah, blah. But now he kind of makes me sick. It's been out for 8 hours and I'm eating the mayonnaise that I once loved, and now it's making me vomit all over the kitchen table. So my Zeke take is, let's get on the same page and just phase him out of our lives. I think he ran its course. He ran his course, and enjoy him for what he was, and enjoy that we no longer have to deal with it. That cereal eating maniac.
Yeah, I mean, I have no rebuttal. Some of those startups were funny. Like, I feel like we did kind of convince leagues at certain times to hold off on drafting Zeke, but like we could never get him to go undrafted. But like we got people to hold off on it. But
I made a couple trades. We, again, not to stay too much on Zeke, I made a couple trades, and these are two leagues that do not have trade deadlines, right? So I'm still in theory tanking and feeding into a team that might be contending most likely. So two trades that I made, I gave Evan Ingram and I got Chase Brown in a middle to late 24 too. I think it's going to be middle. And this is before Chase Brown's most recent game, so he's gotten a little more hype. But that was one trade. So again, it's Evan Ingram for Chase Brown in mid 24 too. And then my second one that I just made yesterday was I gave Calvin Ridley, Russ, Jalen Warren, and then got Nico Collins. So again, both of these teams are tanks, and I gave, again, Ridley, Russ, Warren for Nico. Again, just kind of a value grab in my opinion.
So I'll quickly hit on both of them. So Ingram is what you gave up. You got Chase Brown in the second. Sure, I'm good with it. One quick comment on Chase Brown. I think he's a good reminder of when you get these like fifth round rookie running backs, they're like third string, they get buried on the depth chart, like hold on to them and like continue to look at your waiver wires to find types of guys like this, because a lot of times they just have their ways of finding their way up the depth chart, however it happens. So yeah, I mean, Chase Brown will be tougher to trade for now because people are going to be wanting like late twos almost for him. But I think he's just a good reminder for when you draft those guys and maybe like the fourth round to not give up. Ridley, on another one you gave up, Ridley, Russ, and Warren, you got Nico. When I first looked at that trade,
there was like a sticker shock to it.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a sticker shock because I was thinking like, wow, Calvin Ridley, he was worth like a late first earlier this year. I've seen Russell Wilson go for a late first. Warren was like an early 2. Now, like those guys collectively, I think I said they were like, like 4 2s? All right, 4 2s for Nico. And when you think about the value change of Nico over the last like 3 months, it's kind of crazy because like now if you tell me like 4 2s for Devontae Smith, I'm like, yes, smash, accept. But then I think, okay, Nico, I have Nico, Devontae like same tier. Like, yeah, this is a smash accept. Like, so when you said it's kind of like a value grab, I wasn't really like processing it. But when you really think about it, yeah, I mean, Ridley, Russ, and Jalen Warren for Nico, yeah, it's a value grab.
So this is a perfect example that guests that we've had on, Jacob Sanderson, David Plout, a lot of other guys have said they're like, yes, I would pay a first for this guy, but no, I don't want to use a first. I want to use a first round pick in value of players on my team. This is a perfect example of that, where like Russell Wilson, Calvin Ridley, Jalen Warren combined value is over a first round pick, but no one's giving up a first round pick for one of those 3 players. So combine, like Brian said, consolidate them, turn them into a player that people would pay over a first for. Nico, I like it a lot. I'll get one of my big trades out of the way. Biggest trade of the week here. I gave away Javonte Williams, Josh Downs, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice, and a 25 fourth. And I got Bijan Robinson, DK Metcalf, and George Kittle. So I'll say it one more time. The 5 players I gave up: Javonte Williams, Josh Downs, Dell, Flowers, Rice. And I got back Bijan, DK, and Kittle.
I told you off air, but I love this trade for you. We don't always see eye to eye, but that was definitely one where I was like, okay, yeah, Matt took the W there, no matter build. So
yeah, it's the type of trade that I don't love making, where Downs, Dell, Flowers, Rice. I mean, those are 4 rookie wide receivers that we've been talking about all year that have flashed like a decent amount of talent and upside. So you never know how these deals can end up looking like a year from now. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with it.
Matt, why don't you, since we're talking about a trade that you just made, why don't you tell us who your buy or sell of the week is? Let's transition right into that.
My buy of the week is someone who was my bull of the week about a month back or so. It's Wan'Dale Robinson on the Giants. Watching the Giants-Packers game last night, and he just same reason I made him my bull of the week about a month ago. When you watch the Giants, he pops off the screen. He makes big plays. He can make contested catches. His yak ability is awesome. It's on par with guys like Zay Flowers, who is ranked way higher than him. So like Zay Flowers is a perfect example, right? I think Wan'Dale Robinson and Zay Flowers are very similar talents. You could probably get Wan'Dale, you could probably get Wan'Dale in a late first for Zay Flowers. So that's why I'm trying to buy Wan'Dale right now. What's your buy or sell of the week, Brian?
Yeah, so I have one buy and one sell. I think Raheem Mostert. I feel like people are definitely disrespecting him a little bit in what the season he's putting up with HN coming back. So I think you could probably get him for a 2, assuming your deadline is not already come. And I would sell Rashee Rice for a 25 or 26-1. So it might be a team that that thinks that they're late and they're trying to get one more piece that they don't really care about their pick. And maybe that team all of a sudden is a little bit older, decrepit, and they start, maybe it's a middle 25-1 come, this time next year. So those are the 2 moves that I'm trying to make.
And Rice, you're pretty much holding out for first. Are you looking at selling Rice for any like combo of picks or players, or you're just gunning for that first round pick? Which
I would hold them. I would hold them. Otherwise, I'm looking for a future first. That it's like I think he's. I don't love him as much as everyone else does. I think he's kind of big play reliant and touchdown reliant a little bit at the moment. But I could be wrong. But that's why I would want that type of potential value gain to sell him. Otherwise, I'm holding.
Yeah,
Todd.
All right, so I've hit some technical difficulties, but we're back and rolling here. So my buy of the week, and I'm thinking more towards getting to the end of the season. So maybe your trade deadline's passed and you're thinking, man, I'm probably not making any trades for a while. I'm going to be trying to buy these really old guys that I gave my manifestation to earlier. So like the guys that nobody wants in their teams anymore, like an Eckler or Travis Kelce. If I can get them for in like the 2, like a 2 and a third range for Eckler, a couple 2s for Kelce, I'm trying to make that type of move like as soon as the season is over. All right, so Matt is buying Wan'Dale Robinson. Brian is buying Mostert and selling Rashee Rice. I'm buying all the old guys like Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce. If you think it's gross, keep pushing forward and go for it. So we appreciate you joining the Dynasty Market Watch episode. We're at 1.13. Are we a 14-team league or are we a 12-team
I think so.
league?
Yeah.
All right, we're a 14-team league. So we're hitting to the 1.13 Dynasty Market Watch. Thanks for joining us. Give us a rate. It would really help us out. Currently, like I said, we've got 6 right now, and I think my mom might have been on there. My sister, like I've got like all my family members. So maybe we can branch out a little bit. So for Matt, for Brian, I'm Todd. Thanks for joining.
Sam Hauser is a sniper.
Imaginary players, they make coach right. Master recipes on the stove lights. The number on